I want to talk about and show you the list that I played at YCS Lille now, which of course I went 6-3 on day one, and I did not have a good enough tiebreaker to make day two, so I don't have crazy result to back any of this up, but I still want to talk about my experience and some of the things that I've learned, because I feel like learned something out of the tournaments that I don't do so well in. And I think this time around, a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about after I show you the deck list is going to be like related to your mental when you're approaching a big tournament, or also approaching how do you handle not doing so well at a tournament, because I think this time around, the reason why I didn't do so well was not actually related to the deck list, because I think the deck list I'm about to show you is actually quite good. I liked it a lot, and I think my losses, or at least 2 out of my 3 losses, were more like due to my own technical play. I lost 2 matches that I should have won had I played perfectly, and we'll get into what I maybe think the reason for that is, and how I'm gonna try to approach that moving forward. I played Yummy, and I want to show you the deck list. It is there's some interesting decisions in here. Like, for example, I did not play the Sky Striker cards in Yummy, and I'll talk a little bit about the reason while we go through the deck. But once again, I just want to repeat, I think this deck list was pretty solid. I felt like I was playing a pretty good deck. I want to give a shout out to Maxi and Daniel from Team Raid and Trade, who played the exact same deck, and Maxi I think ended up in top 64 with it, and they all agreed that the list we came up with was actually quite solid. The theory behind it was quite solid. Actually, I want to talk about why I played Yummy to begin with, because a lot of people were surprised by the fact that I played Yummy, which was mainly because people thought I was going to play Mitsurugi. I think a lot of people, and I was close to playing Mitsurugi. My main reason to play Yummy was I felt like it was like I think the current format is very good, and I think a lot of decks are very close to each other in terms of power level. Like I think all Yummy, Mitsu, and Draco Tail are all very valid decks to play. My reason to play Yummy was I felt like there were less floodgates against Yummy than there were against Draco Tail and Mitsurugi. Like I thought there was going to be a lot of people playing cards like Dimensional Barrier, cards like Retaliating Sea and stuff like that, and I don't think those cards affect Yummy as much. Like, yeah, you can side D-Barrier against Yummy, but it's not as big of a deal if you stop them beforehand, or if you break their board and then you set up like Link 1 and some level 1s. Being under D-Barrier is not actually that bad, because you can play on your opponent's turn. Don't get me wrong, there are very strong tech cards against Yummy in the format right now. Cards like Dark Ruler, cards like Super Poly, cards like Fuva are all very good against Yummy, but I felt like I would rather get hit with a Super Poly playing Yummy than I would like to get hit with a D-Barrier when I'm playing Draco Tail, for example, because I feel like there's more agency in those games where you get Super Poly. There's more Yu-Gi-Oh left to be played, which was one of the main reasons why I chose to play Yummy, because I do think all of these decks are similar in power level. I chose the deck that has the least floodgates that are being played against it, so that's why I played Yummy. So of course you play 3 Marshmallow. It is the best extender, and it also gives the deck insane grind game now. And with the deck not having Sky Striker cards, this is one of your main ways to extend after someone resolves like a Murakumo against you. You obviously play 3 Cupsy, and I also played 3 Cookie and 3 Lollipo alongside 3 Piri Rise maps. So I played 3 Piri Rise maps because I really enjoy having access to Cupsy from the beginning. Cupsy I think is the best starter in the deck because it gives you basically 2 plays in 1 card, and Piri Rise map, of course, being 3 extra copies of Cupsy is really strong. So I decided to play basically the full lineup of Yummy names alongside 1 Obedience Schooled. This is 16 starters alongside 1 Pot of Prosperity. This is 1 more starter over the... I played a Yummy list at the Stuttgart Regional a couple of weeks ago. That was before Doom of Dimensions. At that regional, I played 16 starters, and I just felt like those were not enough. And I also didn't like how some of my starters lost to a single Ash Blossom, mainly the Sky Striker cards. And I had a lot of instances where I opened like 4 non-engine, 1 engage, and then they ashed, and then I had no play. And of course that can happen with Piri Rise map as well, but all of the other starters here do not lose to 1 Ash Blossom, which I thought was, as well as all of these work after Dominus Purge. That was one of my main reasons. Extra deck space was one reason. I'll talk about the extra deck space in a second, because there's a couple of cards that I really wanted to play in the extra deck. But also being able to combo after Purge is another thing. Like, of course, I know that Engage and Drones are still usable cards after you use Dominus Purge, but they're not starters anymore. they give you one body, but if you don't have a yummy name next to that, you will not be able to play with just one engage. I did play double surprise. I do think double surprise is very, very essential for this deck. I was considering 3 for a moment because I really liked hard drawing it. It is a very good extender, but it's also like a really good thing to have because people really try to stop Cupsy when they play against this deck. Like the best way to ash this deck is to try and stop Cupsy, which is why in a lot of my combos I would also try to chain block the Cupsy. I can talk about how you can do that later. I can show you how you chain block Cupsy from Ash Blossom, but hard drawing a surprise basically makes your deck a lot more resilient to disruption. And if you draw one and then your Cupsy resolves, that's not even bad because now you have 2 surprise. But guess what? You can use 2 surprises in one turn. You can just not use the same effect twice. But what that if you end up setting 2 surprise at the end of your combo, it means you can use 1 to revive, which makes you better against board breakers. And then you can use the other one to double bounce. So having an extra surprise is not bad. I think 2 is where I like it. I don't think it was good enough to hard draw to actually play 3, but I think having a second one also just like, you know how with one, the reason why people play 1 surprise in Yummy now is because you can loop it with Marshmallow. So you can always add it back from your grave turn after turn after turn. But having a second one still makes it so you can like, you can search a second copy on your follow-up turn. If maybe something goes wrong and you're not able to cycle 1 back from the graveyard, then you can still Cupsy for surprise, which I think is quite essential. And you can set up like the double surprise lock on like in grind games a lot. And then 2 field spells. This is it for the basically Yummy engine requirements, which leaves us, I think this is 21, which leaves us with 19 non-engine, which I decided to do a split between hand traps and board breakers, which is basically what I've been a fan of for a while now. We do play more hand traps than board breakers. It is 3 Fuva, 3 Ash, 3 Bell, 3 Purge, and 3 Imperm. So 15. These are just the hand traps I liked this format. Like, I really liked Ghost Bell as a way to interrupt Mitsurugi. And this is also, the hand trap lineup is the reason why I think the Mitsurugi matchup is not as bad as people make it out to be. You have very high quality hand traps against Mitsurugi. 3 Ash, 3 Bell, 3 Purge, you have a very good chance to be able to interrupt them. When you go first and you pair that with your regular interruption plus Herald of the Arclight to stop one of their starters, like plus any of these, it's so hard for Mitsurugi to play through. Imperm on top is also really good against Mitsurugi if they don't have prayers to dodge Imperm on Murakumo. If you can stop them from Raigekiing your board with Imperm, then it actually becomes really hard for Mitsu to out your board, and you can just take them apart with your Yummy interruptions. So the non-engine is very good against Mitsurugi, and also Bell, awesome applications against Draco Tail, has applications in the mirror match. Like, Bell is just a very versatile card in the current format. I think it might very well be the best format for Ghost Bell ever. And then I played Thrust and Talents. I just like Thrust way too much in this deck at the moment to not play it. I was considering playing more hand traps instead of Thrust to make it a full hand trap deck, but I'm gonna be honest with you, any hand trap that I added after this, I just didn't think was that good. And a lot of the times I was drawing, like, let's say I was playing Veilers for a while, I was playing Nibirus for a while, which Nibiru is actually possible to play in this deck because you don't play the striker card, so you have less conflict with it. But whenever I was drawing Nibiru, let's say I was drawing Nibiru plus Ash, or Nibiru plus Fuva, or Nibiru plus these other hand traps, I was always thinking like it would be better if I just hand trap them a little bit and then Thrust on my turn for Obedience, Schooled, or Talents. So Thrust was awesome in this deck. Of course, with the Thrust, you play the Talents. And then the last card in the deck was a Called by the Grave. I knew the Called by the Grave had to be somewhere in the deck because this deck is a little weak to Fuva. Your Fuva compromises are fine, but you would rather negate it. So Called by was either going to be in my main deck or my side deck. I decided to main deck it because I think with Mitsurugi in the format, Called by the Grave is good enough going second as well to be main deck. No other board breakers because I preferred these cards over here. I think the only board breaker that works in this deck really well in like a lot of hand traps with like one board breaker. The one board breaker I want to see is Thrust. I don't think Droplet is good enough. I did consider Psyframes. I'm gonna be honest with you, I just hate Psyframes. I just hate the driver. I just hate the Garnet. I'm that kind of player. I just don't like the feeling of playing those cards in my deck. When I go first, I don't want to see them. This deck, you know, like I don't want to see dead cards when I'm going first. I don't want to see driver. I just wasn't a fan of that. I considered it, but I was happy with this, and that's why I preferred this over the Scythe. That was the main deck. The extra deck is, some of it is standard, but it was a little tricky to build because of some other cards that I wanted to play. So 3 Snatchy, 1 Almirage. I decided to play the Link Spider. I know that there's some people that are cutting the Link Spider. I'm gonna be honest with you, it just makes it easier to play through Nibiru. I think it's possible to play through Nibiru without it, but there's just like some game states where the Link Spider really helps, especially when you're going second and you're playing into a board. You might not have the same amount of control over how to play around Nibiru because your opponent has extra disruptions, and then the Link Spider really helps. I decided to play this. This is probably what would have been a Kagari had I played the Striker cards. I like this card in theory because you can reset Surprise, and when you play double Surprise in a grind game, you can always you can get to double Surprise, you can add 1 back with Marshmallow, you can reset the second one with this, and that just makes for a really strong board for your opponent to crack. That's why I wanted to play this, but this is definitely the extra deck monster that I summoned the least. I played 1 SP and 1 IP. The reason I played IP is because it helps you make a stronger board against Mitsurugi that cannot be Raigeki'd as easily. So when your opponent goes for Murakumo into your board, you can go IP into SP, banish the Murakumo. That makes for a stronger board into Mitsu that they can't just cannot just wipe with Murakumo. That's the Link monsters. 1 of each synchro, of course. 1 Cupsy, 1 Lollipop, 1 Cookie. I played Starham. I really like Starham in this deck because it makes it less vulnerable to SP banish the field spell, because you can now add it back with Starham into Marshmallow to add back from banish pile, which actually there was one game where my opponent went SP, banish my field spell, and then their plan was to just not activate anything, so I could never tag out into my Marshmallow. But then I just did my plays, they never reacted, and then I made Starham and brought back the field spell anyways. And also Starham is needed for another card in the extra deck. Marcher, Herald, and then the card I was referring to is Silvera. There's a very specific reason for Silvera in here, which I'm surprised honestly that people are unfamiliar with Silvera in Yummy at this point. I feel like it's not standard, but like it's been done, you know? It's not like a new thing, but a lot of people had to read this card when I brought it out. So this card essentially books all of your opponent's monsters, and it is a level 6 synchro, which normally in most of your games you do not need this disruption, but there's one particular situation where I felt like it was very relevant to have this. If your opponent super polys your Herald of the Arclight and one of your Yummy monsters into Mud Dragon of the Swamp, even if you have Yummy Surprise set and other interruptions, the Mud Dragon basically invalidates everything you have, because you just cannot target their stuff, and everything in Yummy target. Cookie to book targets. Yummy Surprise to bounce targets. Cookie main deck Cookie to pop targets. If they play Mitsurugi and they go like Mud Dragon Call Dark, you just cannot interact. So what you have to do in those instances is you let your opponent commit next to the Mud Dragon a little bit, and then you use the Starham to basically synchro climb a little bit to get your levels, because otherwise level 6 is very hard to reach after a super poly. So you use the Starham to climb into the Silvera, and then you just book their Mud Drag and everything else they have. And then after that, if you have resources left, you can still do all of the targeting interrupt. That's what the Silvera was for. It was to counter super poly into Mud Dragon, which I thought was relevant enough. Super poly was a very popular card at the YCS. So I think these two were necessary for that reason. So the flex spots basically are like, I think these 3 you can maybe get away without. How do you get that many bodies? I mean, the end board, it's not that hard. The end board is something like this with 1 Yummy name next to it. If they super poly these 2 and then play into this, tagging out, you make the Silvera over the course of like multiple tag outs, and then climbing with Starham. It's possible. And you have the Surprise Reborn as well. Cards I wanted to play in the extra deck. I'm going to show you in a second. I side decked Cherries, so I wanted to play Leo Dancer in the extra deck, but I have it in my side deck for Lunalight. Typhon I think is awesome in this deck because it can get very grindy and actually plays into boards surprisingly well. So Typhon was going to be the next card I played. I think one of these three could be a Typhon. Cherries. I thought Cherries was good in this deck. It was by far the best card against Lunalight. I'll tell you something that I believe was... we tested it a lot against Lunalight, and I believe it was correct, but we went second against Lunalight post side, which sounds crazy. The theory behind it is basically Lunalight, like the Yummy board against what Lunalight, like what the Lunalight deck is, the Yummy board basically never matters. Like they play Dark Ruler, they play Droplet, they play Heavy Poly. All of those cards essentially just invalidate your entire board, and then they summon one Liger with a Heavy Poly and you lose. What we did is we sided the best possible hand traps against Lunalight, and we just sent them first, because we don't have to worry about Fuva, we don't have to worry about Heavy Poly, we don't have to worry about Dark Ruler. All we need to do is we need to draw the good non-engine, which we play a lot of against Luna, and then they're probably going to have some dead board breakers in hand. We try to stop the Liger from coming out, and then we try to win that way. And then the Cherries also doubles as a card that I think Cherries is decent in the Yummy mirror match. It's not auto win, but it throws your opponent into some awkward spots, especially if they don't respect it. Like if they go first action, summon Cupsy, activate effect of Cupsy, search surprise. It's a lot more difficult to get a field spell into the graveyard for Yummy, if that's the case. Yeah, it's just it's even if they respect it and they play around it a little bit, and they can search the field spell and then discard it and recycle 2 Snatchies, they're still playing 1 Snatchy down, and they also don't get to search surprise if they want to go Cupsy search field spell to play around Cherries. 2 rolls, space reasons. Would have been 3 if I had more space. There's 1 Sangan, which was, in the beginning it was 3. So let me tell you the idea behind Sangan and the reason I really like it. I would have liked to play 3 Sangans in this deck, but so Sangan in Yummy is technically a 1-card combo. So you can side it going first to increase consistency for your deck. You can normal summon Sangan, make Almirage, and then search for Cookie or Lollipo. And both of these, so Sangan says you cannot activate the effects of the monster you search. However, the effect of the Yummies to special summon themselves does not activate. So when you Sangan into Almirage, you can special one of them, and that is now a full combo because you can go Cupsy Yummy way. So Sangan is a starter. I didn't want to just side deck more normal summons for going first that maybe clog up my hand. If I draw too much engine, I might just lose to board breakers if my opponent sides in for Yummy like Super Poly, Dark Ruler, and stuff like that. So Sangan, if you open it alongside other engine cards, like if you already have Sangan and Cookie, you just search a hand trap with your Sangan. Like the Sangan in this position just turns into an Almirage, which lets you special your other engine pieces, but it just transforms into the best non-engine for the matchup. Like if you're playing against Mitsu, Sangan is Droll. If you're playing against Draco Tail, Sangan is Retaliating Sea or Ash Blossom, and so on and so forth. And so that's what I liked about Sangan, and I wanted to play more just to increase the consistency for going first a little bit without actually losing like non-engine, right? Like it was a cool way to increase consistency without siding too much engine, basically, right? So I thought Sangan was kind of like the perfect bridge between side decking a card like Solemn Judgment for going first, because Solemn Judgment can never be engine, right? Like if you draw Solemn Judgment and Cupsy, that's cool. You now have full combo and Solemn Judgment, but if you only draw Solemn Judgment, you can't play. Now, if you only draw Sangan, that's your play. That's your Yummy combo. If you draw Sangan plus Cupsy, Sangan gets you Droll and Lockbird or whatever, right? So I like that. Would have liked to play more if space wasn't so incredibly tight. Leo Dancer for the Cherries. Of course, a lot of people might wonder why do you play Leo Dancer and not Liger Dancer against Lunalight if that's the one you really care about. If you banish Leo Dancer from Lunalight, they cannot make Liger because Liger needs Leo Dancer as a material. So by banishing Leo Dancer, you basically get rid of the Leo Dancer and the Liger Dancer from their extra deck, which is neat. 3 Metal Tronus. This is basically exclusively for the mirror match. I didn't play any targets who played this in other matchups. I just felt like this was the best card in the mirror match to like, especially if your opponent makes like a little bit of an half board, or your opponent cannot set up surprise because you cherry them and stuff like that, then like Tronus really goes hard in the mirror match. I also side decked the 3rd copy of Triple Tactics Thrust because I just liked it so much when I was going second. Going first, I don't play a trap for it that isn't Purge or Imperm, so going first Thrust is not as good in this deck, but going second, I really loved it in some matchups. And the last card is a Dark Hole. Dark Hole was awesome for me. In general, Dark Hole and Raigeki are decent in the current format. The reason why it's Dark Hole specifically is because of the mirror match. In the mirror match, in Yami especially, it is very hard to extend if your opponent books your first play. Let's say you normal summon a Cookie and your opponent books it with Cookie Yamiway. A lot of your possible extenders now do not work anymore. You know, like depending on your version, you cannot special Marshmallow, you cannot activate Obedience Schooled, so you cannot thrust for Obedience Schooled either, and you also cannot activate Engage if you play it. So a lot of ways to extend typically do not work after you get booked with Cookie. So I decided to play a Dark Hole for a thrust target. So in theory, if I have any of these extenders, I can thrust for Dark Hole, clear my board and their board, and then use the extenders to keep playing. And Dark Hole is honestly also just a really good card to draw in a lot of matchups. Like generally, it's not like it's a thrust target, but I didn't mind drawing it. Like it's a pretty fine card. It also outs Ibli, which some people were doing with Yami. So like Dark Hole was pretty nice for me. And that was my my side deck plan. So basically, it's really tight. I would have actually liked to play a couple more cards. I would have liked to play 3 Drolls. I would have liked to play 3 Sangans for going first. That would have made the deck a lot more unfair for going first. I would have liked to play 1 D barrier for thrust when I'm going first to be better under Fuva. And so on, but like it was just so tight. Also because the Leo Dancer had to go into the side deck. Maybe I could have made space in the extra deck for the Leo Dancer, but that was my biggest struggle on Friday before registration. Was like, which of these do I actually need in the extra deck? I think looking back, maybe the IP is not 100% necessary. Maybe this one is not 100% necessary. I would play Starham and Silvera again, but these two might be able to be cut for Leo Dancer and Typhon, and then you have a side deck space as well. But for now, this is I was pretty happy with the list for the theory that went into it. For the time that I had, I thought it was pretty decent. Chain blocking Cupsy is something you can do if you open 2 names, if you want to play around your opponent ashing your Cupsy. Worth noting, by doing this, you are exposing yourself to imperm on Cupsy a little bit, but there's technically also a way to play around that, but I'll show you. Okay, so if you want to chain block a Cupsy, you normal summon it. You don't use the effect. You link it off for Snatchy. Snatchy places you minion. Then you special Lollipop from your hand. And what you can do now is you go minion effect, try to revive the Cupsy, chain Snatchy to synchro summon, and then you make Cupsy Yamiway, and then these two come out in basically the same chain, and then you can go chain link 1 Cupsy, chain link 2 Cupsy Yamiway, which chain blocks the Cupsy from Ash Blossom, which is something you can do to respect Ash, to guarantee that you have Yummy Surprise in your hand. Something you can take this 1 step further. You can technically play around Imperm here as well. I'm not sure how bad that is into Nibiru, however. Let me quickly think about that. So you would normal summon Cupsy, no effect. Link 1, Snatchy, place minion. Special Lollipop, special Cookie. So that's 4 summons. Then you make another link 1. That would be 5 summons, but if you get nibbed right here, you still have Link Spider revive with minion, so it's fine. And then you can go chain link 1 minion, target Cupsy, chain link 2 Snatchy, make Cupsy Yamiway. Yeah, this works if you have 3 names. If you have 3 names, this works too, because here you can go chain link 1 Cupsy, chain link 2 Cupsy Yamiway, and now if your opponent has Imperm, you just chain Snatchy and synchro away the Cups. So this technically, if you have 3 names, you can basically guarantee your Cupsy search. They would have Impermed the Snatchy though. I think imperming Snatchy is usually not very good. So I would not expect everyone to imperm the Snatchy, no. Especially if your opponent goes normal summon Cupsy, no effect, and then make Snatchy, they have an extender. You know they have an extender, because if you have Cupsy 1-card combo, you always activate Cupsy. If they go normal summon Cupsy, no effect, you know they have more names in that. So imperming this is not a good idea. In these instances, if you're wondering how to use Imperm against Yummy, I think if they start with one of these two and make the link 1 and your hand is not great, I think Imperming it is okay. But like usually I think holding Imperm for your own turn is better. Or hold it for Cupsy in a situation where there's no Snatchy on them. Then Imperm is okay. But for the most part, I think Imperming Herald is the best. If I say I was happy with the list, then what was I unhappy with? Because obviously I did not make day 2 at I went 6-3, which is not a terrible result, but I'm also obviously not happy with it. I noticed that I wasn't playing as well as I should have or could have with this deck, which I don't think. So essentially, the way my tournament ran, I lost round 2 to Memento because I misplayed in game 3. It's very hard for me to retell the exact situation because it's Memento, and the Memento games tend to be a little bit messy. Just for the sake of it, basically, the situation came down to my opponent had a Caesar. I was able to play through my opponent's entire board. There was only one Caesar left, and I had a Yummy Surprise in my hand as basically my last card. I think it was my last card, and I looked at their graveyard. I see a bunch of Mementos. I see Combined Creation. My life points were at 4,000 because I paid for Piri Rise map, and they had no cards in hand and nothing else but the Caesar, and I think they had the Memento field spell. And in my head, it's like, okay, my only line here is activate Surprise and hope they don't negate it with the Caesar, which of course they did negate it. And I just thought I'm dead next turn, right? And then I passed, and then they drew, and then I realized, and they realized that they didn't have enough Mementos in the graveyard to bring back Combined Creation. I looked at their grave, I saw 5 Mementos, but it was 5 Mementos including Combined Creation. So they had 4 Memento names, Combined Creation, and a Caesar on the board, which meant that if they don't draw a Memento name, they actually can't bring back the Combined Creation. So I was actually not guaranteed dead if they don't draw a Memento, and they didn't draw a Memento. So all they had was just go battle phase and attack me with the Caesar. And then on my next turn, I ended up drawing Darkhold, which, if I still had the Surprise from last turn in my hand, Darkhold the Caesar, and then my Surprise is actually full combo because I have Cupsy engraved. But because I had used the Surprise on the previous turn, thinking it was my only way to win, the Darkhold now, and they still won. Just because I missed the fact that I wasn't dead to their follow-up, because they had no follow-up, and I didn't realize that. I was like, okay, Memento has infinite follow-up anyways. I didn't properly count the Mementos in their grave, and so I lost that round. I lost round 2, and then I lost one game to Draco Tail because I reacted a little bit too fast to their, like, it was like I summoned Cupsy as summon 3, and at this point my hand was like Talents and Surprise. So Cupsy was summon 3, they ashed it, they had 2 cards left in hand. I knew one of them was a Molulu because they added it back with Arthalion. And I was like, okay, even if I tag out here and I get nibbed after, I can win with the Surprise alone. So basically, the right play here, if I get ashed on Cupsy, is to just say, okay, then go Talents, look at hand, take away the only unknown card, and then keep playing with the Surprise is basically a guaranteed win. I tagged out into 2 monsters from my graveyard. Then I got nibbed, and then I realized I had banished my Link Spider for Prosperity, so Surprise plus Nip token actually wasn't combo for me, and then they top decked like the best possible card they could have to punish that. I just, in a blink of a second, I'm like, oh yeah, I beat Nibiru here, so I can tag out with the Cupsy for the extra value. And then I realized, like 2 seconds after, I realized I actually don't have the best possible line under Nibiru available, which is just like, these are things like, the thing with these misplays is not that I saw them like a split second too late. So something that I need to work on. I think it's just a focus issue. I don't think my preparation was bad. I don't think my deck list was bad. I just feel like I've been playing not focused enough recently. This keeps happening where I'm good enough to see my mistakes at least, but I make them and then I realize them like a split second too late, and I don't know where that's coming from. I'm not really used to that because I used to not play like this, which is, it's kind of throwing me off at the moment. Do you think, am I getting old? I have no idea, because like this is very often in Yu-Gi-Oh where the skill comes from. This is what makes the difference between going X0 or X1 or X3, because you're usually not meant to win every single one of your rounds. You're meant to lose some of them. If everyone plays perfectly, then you're not always winning, but like you're meant to like capitalize on these situations where you really have to play perfectly to win your games. And I used to do that more. I used to have a lot of games where I felt like my opponent should have won if they played perfectly, but then I clutched it out somehow. I saw a line that could win if they mess up a little bit, and then they did, and then I end up winning. And in recent, I noticed this in recent friggin' weeks or months, that I've been making more of these like unconcentrated mistakes, which is something I need to work on. But the good news is at least I have something to work on. At least I know the reason why I'm not performing at the moment, which is, I guess, a positive thought in all of this, because it's not like I can blame my deck. My deck was supposed to beat the Draco Tail deck that I lost to, and it was supposed to beat the Memento deck that I lost to, so it was fine. I had one match that I couldn't win, which is fine. You know, that happens. I had one match where I just lost because their hands were really good. It was like game 1 I won a very quick game. Game 2 I lost a very quick game because they went first, combo plus talent plus called by, so I lost. And then game 3 I went first. I got double Fuvad. I had no out to Fuva. I made Snatchy plus 2 level 1s. I had double surprise and I had Droll in hand, and then they went Duster, Chain Droplet, and had a hand that played through Droll. So I'm like, you know, like that's okay to lose that. I couldn't really, I had no agency in that game. That happens. But that was just one out of my losses. The other 2 I definitely could have won. My preparation was okay in terms of deck building. I think the theory that went into this deck was good. I think I still have the theory that it needs to build good decks. I need to work on how I handle my like concentration and stuff like that. That is something I need to definitely improve if I want to keep competing at the level that I'm used to. And I also, if I want to participate in the Worlds race this year, I need to step up my my game in that regard. I don't know. It's tough though. It's hard. It's hard to be in this position where you basically have no one to blame but yourself for not performing at a YCS. But I guess it is a lesson to be learned. I mean, I've learned this lesson in the past, I suppose. I've been in this position before. It's just I felt like maybe I'm off my peak, and during my peak this didn't happen very often. I'll see if I can get back to that. Too many Master Duel minigames. I guess maybe in recent years I've been practicing different skill sets on Master Duel, because Master Duel does take different skills, but like it is harder to miss like a trigger or forgetting about something in Master Duel because things glow. I don't know, maybe it's that, but no matter what it is, it's not gonna discourage me from trying to solve it again. But I think I can. I think I still have it.